Hi there, welcome. This is the latest in our Christmas themed videos. We're going to make some of these acorn pots, and those of you who have watched some of our videos before will know that we attempted doing these for an autumn themed series in beautiful coppers and so on, but this time we're going to stick with our silver and gold. So a few little implements and tools here, nice little pair of tweezers, the metallic powders from Let's Resin, the silver and the gold foil flakes, the moulds, and also the paintbrush. So look at these. These are the metallic powders now. They're not mica powders. They're not tints and glitters. They are metallic powders, and they do cover the mould in a different way. Now, I do get rid of that little hair that you just saw in there. First up, we've got antique gold. It's this sort of colour. I don't know if you can see that on the back of my glove there. And we're just going to apply it in the same way that we always do, with a dry bristled paintbrush and dipping it in the pot, tapping majority of the excess of it off, and then just literally burnishing it onto the mould using the brush. And so burnishing just basically means sort of brushing it into the mould. But before we do that, we're just going to remove that hair, and I'm doing that with just a bit of tape. There we go. So just gets rid of any little, do check your moulds before you use them to make sure there's no little bits of debris. I don't know what it is, but it just seems to attract, they attract hairs. So if you've got pets like we have, yeah, you'll probably have the same issue that we do, but never mind. So here we go. Here's the first one with this beautiful gold. So literally, again, this has been sped up. I do take your time when doing this. Don't forget that this is also exactly like mica, as in regards to it can be an irritant. So make sure you work in a well-ventilated area. You wear your gloves, like I'm doing here with the pink ones, and that you wear a respirator mask or a dust mask. But there we go. Also, do protect your clothing, because this will mark it if you drop some on your clothing, which I have done in the past. But yeah, so just applying it liberally but carefully all around the surfaces of the mould, making sure you just do the inside lip there as well, because the resin, you are going to fill it up with resin all the way to the top. There we go. So there's just a close-up of what you can see. There we are. Don't forget, turn the mould over, give it a tap, tap, tap. I've got a layer of greaseproof paper down over my tray here that I'm working on, and it collects all the additional metallic powder, and then you can collect it all up, put it back in the container, or if you haven't got much, you can just deposit it in the bin. So I'm not sure quite why my camera seems to be having a few issues with focusing, but here we go. We're going to go in and we're going to use the metallic silver on the other mould, or the lid of the other mould. Lots of lovely detail on these lids. There we are. And just making sure that we're just burnishing it on there, brushing it into the surface of the mould quite thoroughly, trying to make sure that every single bit of that detailing is covered in the beautiful metallic powder. Now, there is also a copper and a bronze coloured powder that come with this set, and everything that we've used in today's video will be linked in the description box below. There we are. So just working that way through, working it on, making sure it's all completely covered. But we will also be filling these with the resin, which has been coloured with the same metallic powder. And that's just to make sure that if there's any little bits of the mould that you've missed by some way or another with the brushing on the metallic powder, then it doesn't matter, because the resin is the same colour as the powder. So therefore, you're not going to have any little gaps of colour. So in other words, you won't get any bits of clear resin showing up on the outside of this piece. So we're just finishing off with the mould there, just making sure that it's all completely covered, being very, very thorough. Check it over, turn it over, tap, tap, tap. Not much powder left in there. You can still see a little bit of residue, I think, there on the surface, but that doesn't matter. So there's two side by side, that beautiful gold and the gorgeous silver. Now, these are the pot parts, the base parts. And I am going to make up some resin and decant it into the two cups. So we're going to use the gold leaf and the silver leaf, and we're also going to use the 2 metallic powders. Now this bit's been sped up. Made up some Tea Expert resin, 1:1 mixing ratio. Great resin to use, but obviously use the resin that you're happy to use. And I'm just decanting some of the resin into each of these cups. There we go. So there is more in one than in the other, and there's a good reason for that, and that is because one of them is going to have the metallic powder added and the other one's going to have some gold leaf added. Less metallic in the one for the metallic powder, more for the leaf. So look at this. I mean, this is where the tweezers come in. I find this is the easiest way for me to handle metallic leaf flakes. You can also get this in complete sheets or little like square sheets. Up to you what you decide to use. This has already been partially broken up, but do watch out for some really large clumps. You don't want to put those in if possible. So there we go. And then you think to yourself, you look at that and you think that's never going to break down enough, but it does. As soon as you go in with your stir stick there, or if I've done with a popsicle stick or lollipop stick there, it's just broken it down. And have a look. Decide if you think you've got enough. If you have, that's fine. If not, add a bit more like I've done and then stir it back through. So you're just making sure it's all completely incorporated into the resin. Look at that. Love it. Love the effect that that gives. Just going to top it up with a little bit more of the clear resin. There we go. So this is the metallic powder. So this was the gold. And we're just getting a small stir stick, and we're just going to add a bit like that. That is it. Stir it in. There we are. Make sure you don't breathe any of this in, because as I said, it can act like mica and be an irritant. That's not what you want to be breathing in. So we've got the base part of the mould, of the pot mould, and we're going to go in first with some of this gold leaf resin mixture. So just popping that into the top there, carefully does it. And we're putting in enough so that we can then see it, and it travels, because resin, don't forget, is going to move. So this is moved across the top of the mould and down the sides. So when you're doing this for yourself, if you look at the side, you'll be able to see it. Has it filled up enough for you? Has it achieved what you want it to? If it has, like I had done for us, so you then went in with the metallic powder mix, and then again with the gold flake mix, and then again with the metallic powder mix, and so on. Now, I didn't know how dominant the metallic powder mixed resin was going to be. I didn't want it to be very dominant. I wanted more of the clear resin with the gold leaf, but I wasn't sure at this stage and at this point whether or not that was going to happen. So something else I decided to do at this point, so it's not completely full yet, but it's nearly there, is to take the smaller stir stick and to carefully try and do the drop swirl technique. Shout out to Resin Jules. I've only ever seen her do the drop swirl technique in the pots that she does, and the overall effect at the end is stunning, particularly if you're using completely different coloured resins. So there I am, I'm just going with a bit more of the metallic gold powder mixed resin, bit more of the gold leaf mix, and then back with the little stir stick and give it a bit of a swirl, and also just go around just around the inside of the top part edges of the mould there, just to make sure there's no air bubbles trapped. Now the lid. We're going to basically use up the rest of the leftover resin, but predominantly put in more of the metallic powder mix. So we're just pouring that in now. Look at that. Now that looks quite dark, doesn't it? That's what I thought. And I did think, have I chosen the wrong colour? I think with hindsight, I'd probably use a different colour gold, but I don't have metallic powder in a different colour gold. I've only got it in mica powders, which isn't a problem. I could use a mica powder. Maybe use the Aztec Gold by Arteza, which is more of a rich, golden, warming glow, a shade of gold, if that makes sense. But yeah, so just filled it up, popped the small stir stick or lollipop stick just round underneath the insides of this mould. Now, we have had a problem with these moulds in the past with the lids, where for whatever reason, I have no idea why, they don't quite reach the underneath sides, just under that lip of the mould. I've no idea why, because we're filling the mould right up. We're making sure there's no air bubbles. You know, we're doing everything you're supposed to do. I don't know if it's just sheer bad luck, or I just don't know. But never mind. Anyway, we're going to repeat the process, the same process as we've done with the gold. We're going to now repeat with the silver. So we've decanted the resin into 2 separate cups. We're adding a generous amount of silver flake, and I am spilling it everywhere as well. That is not an unusual thing for me with this stuff. There we go. So just stirring it in. As I said, some of these clips have been sped up because you don't need to sit and watch me do this for, you know, a minute or 2 minutes. Particularly not when it's a repeat of a process that you've already seen. So that's the beautiful silver foil. Now, the only thing I do think when I'm looking at this now is that it does look a little bit dark. So probably got a little bit too much silver foil flake in here. Although when I did that, it then didn't look like I had. So I don't know. I mean, put your comment, add a comment. Do you think it's the wrong colour? Do you think it's the wrong shade? What would you do differently? Do you like them? What colours would you use? Would you go for maybe a glitter base and a solid coloured top? That might be an idea. What Christmas themed colours do you like this year? Are you going with what I've heard is going to be popular is the traditional green, red and gold, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I think. So that's the beautiful metallic silver resin mix, and here we go with the base again. So this is the base part of the pot mould. Going in first of all with some of the beautiful silver foil mix. Just pouring enough in so that it goes equally down the sides of the mould towards the bottom. Like that. There we go. So it's just spreading out across the top, still travelling, still moving. And then adding in some of the metallic silver mix. There we are. Look at that. Now that looks lovely, that colour silver there. But it is still quite dark. I'm yet to find a silver that I absolutely love. I've also had this problem with silver, proper metallic silver acrylic paints, in that it's just not, it's not good enough of a chrome to like silver-like finish, if that makes sense. But there you go. I'm still going to keep trying to find one. The only thing I have found I really love in silver is the Deco Colour pens, which you've seen us use. So just repeated it with the layering there, doing the drop swirl technique before we get to the very top, trying not to get a lot of mess everywhere, and then topping it up again with some more of the layers. Now I did put more silver, metallic silver resin mix in this one, and you'll see what the result is at the end. It is, I'm going to tell you, it is darker than what I'd wanted it to be. And as a result, I don't like it as much as I like the gold effect one. It's still good. It still has the overall effect that we were after, and still very pleased with it, but it doesn't have the same appeal to me as the gold one. So here we go, just making sure I am getting rid of all of the air bubbles. And as I said, spoiler alert, that doesn't quite work. So there we are. Just filling it up now, up to the top, making sure we're all the way up to the top. Now, what we do also do with our moulds, whilst just before, after we finish pouring in the resin, is we do give them a spritz with some isopropyl alcohol. If you're going to do that, do not then apply heat. It's either or. So you either get rid of surface bubbles with a long-necked lighter, or isopropyl alcohol. Not both, otherwise you'll have a fire. So this is a whole 24 hours. Yes, you heard it. I actually waited a whole 24 hours for these to cure completely enough for me to demold them. So struggling a little bit, but that's because I've actually got the 2 pairs of gloves on, not one. Otherwise, if you've just got 1 pair of gloves, then absolutely fine. These are very easy to demold. So there we go. I know I've got to do a bit of tidy up on the base there of the underside of the lid. But there we go. It's coming off. It's lovely and shiny. Really, really gorgeous. Now, can you see there? We've got a big section missing and it's in exactly the same place. And there as well. Oh, I just don't know. I don't know quite what else I can try with this. But you know, it's like everything that you make. If it's handmade, it's going to have some slight imperfections. We are going to, these will be actually at our craft fair that we're attending in December here in the UK. And they will be sold with slight imperfections, although we are going to go back in and get rid of any sharp edges and so on. But they're handmade. They're one-off. They're unique pieces. They're not mass-produced. So here I am, again, struggling. You won't struggle with this. This is because, as I said, I've got 2 pairs of gloves on. And that's just for me, for comfort. There we go. So it is looking very dark there. There we are. Once you get to that stage, it comes off really nice and easy. Twist and pull method to release it. And once the air, you've got that little pocket of air there, it comes out very well. So got to do a bit of tidy up on the base there, which we'll do with a deburring tool, which I'm just about to show you now. So just literally holding it round like that. Now, if you are not able to use this tool, excuse me, you can always just take some very lightly sand it using some fine grade sandpaper, or perhaps a nail file or emery board will do the job just as well. But as you can see there, I did remove quite a bit of excess material there. And then just felt over the top, made sure there was no sharp edges, and it isn't, there's no more there, and there we go. So that's what this looks like. Now there is definitely, for my taste, probably too much of the metallic mixed resin or powder mixed resin, but there we are. And you also need to do a little bit on the lid here, which I'm also showing you. Don't forget this has been sped up because you don't need to sit for like 3 or 4 minutes watching me take off the excess material using the deburring tool. It can take a little while to get used to using it and how to hold it, but I'm quite happy to use this now. There we are. So just see, there we go. So that does actually fit now. It's a loose fit. That's the other thing to say. But look at that. I mean, that does, in the lighting that we have there, it does look like you've got quite a dark colour to the base and a very, very shiny top. And here we go with the demoulding of the lid for the gold one. So just sped this up a little bit. But I do like watching, I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I do like watching demoulding of pieces that people have made. I love that bit. It's the anticipation. What's it going to look like? Has it worked? And look at that. Now that is gorgeous. I was concerned about the colour. I really, really was. But I don't think I had any need to be worried about that. Certainly not in the lid part. So there we go. Just using the deburring tool again as we did with the silver lid and the silver pot. Taking it off. Do it a little bit at a time, Just keep repeating it, that motion and that process until it's completely nice and smooth. And as you can see, we've got exactly the same thing as happened with the lid on this one. I think what I'm going to do is turn the lid mould, the mould part, that part of the mould even, sorry, inside out and inspect it thoroughly, because I'm now starting to think that maybe it's the mould itself. And just demoulding the base part of the gold pot, and I can already see there's a lot more clear resin present in this one. And again, just doing exactly the same thing with the base of this pot, taking off those sharp edges, making sure it's nice and smooth and safe. There we go. Really lovely. You can also put some of the little plastic spongy type pads on the bottoms of these if you're worried about it ruining sort of like work surfaces or scratching or marking. But I really like this. Still showing up, the metallic mix does still show up in it, but there just seems to be a lot more clear with the gold flake in this one. So just sizing that one up. The lid, it needs a bit more work on it, which I did do. And then just a little bit of manoeuvring and it's on. That is beautiful, but the flake, the gold flake, is a different colour gold to the lid. That's absolutely fine, but I think in future I'd probably use a different colour powder, or I'll use the warmer gold mica. So this, we had some leftover resin, and this is what we made. So we made some of these really lovely little balloon modelling dogs. I don't know if you've seen those or had those at children's parties and things, but we just basically used the leftover resin and made some of those. So they make really cute key rings or handbag charms. There is a certain brand of handbag where this dog is its brand logo. Begins with an R. Put the name in the comments if you know which one it is. And then there was a little bear at the end there as well. So this is the final shots coming up for you now. This beautiful gold pot. And then the silver one as well. Equally as lovely, but I still prefer the gold. But why not put down in the comments which do you prefer, the gold or the silver? Now what we've done with these as well is we've popped in a little tea light, which is battery operated. So it's not a real candle flame into it. Obviously, don't forget with resin, you can't use real candles. Take care everyone. Hope you've enjoyed the video and we'll see you again very soon.